Now, one of my biggest fears when it comes to performing is turning up to a venue and missing a critical piece of equipment. A, letting down my fellow musicians, and B, the audience. So one thing I try to do is be organised and always be prepared and have spares and what I think is important to have with me at a gig easily at hand. And recently, to try and make my life easier, to avoid having problems at gigs like that, I purchased this addario gig bag. And in here, this includes everything I take to a gig apart from my guitar, my amp, and probably coffee and water. Everything's in here. Now, it's not cheap, this bag. I'll put a link in the description to the addario website. This is not affiliated, not being paid to say anything. This is just my honest review of this bag. But I'll share with you what I take, and you can also get a sense of whether this bag's a good purchase for yourself. So first up, we've got this handy, nifty guitar stand that I like to keep on the side. Nice fold up, nice and portable. Hasn't failed me so far. And then you've got one big main pocket here on the top. And in here, I've got a power lead, which has got 2 plugs on. Usually that's not something I need at a gig. Usually that's already provided, but just in case. I've managed to fit in the channel foot switch for my Tone King Imperial. And this is my favourite thing that I can get in here. My whole pedal board fits in this bag. This is the Pedal Train Nano. You can see on here I've got a few pedals. I've got my tuner, clean boost, El Pescadero for Charlie Christian amp tones and really nice rum reverb, and the Strymon Flint for a more subtle reverb, and the tremolo. It's all powered by the DC7 from Seox. And on here, great feature, having my phone charger. Could also charge a tablet if I was reading music from a tablet, so that's really handy to have at a gig if you're not able to charge your phone in the car on the way. Inside here there's also another pocket, so anyone else wears contact lenses. I've got my spare pair of glasses, I've got a spare pair of contact lenses, and I've got eye drops as well. If you wear them, you just know your eyes dry out, and it's pretty annoying when you're on a gig, and that happens. So that's the main big pocket. And the second biggest pocket, I've got a toolkit in here. This is a thing I got with a custom shop Strat a few years ago. I've added a few tools to it. I've got like a string winder, something to adjust the jack sockets, multi-tool, that's from addario, and something to cut strings with, just a few basic tools should I have an issue with a guitar before a gig, or maybe even during a gig. In here I also have lights for sheet music. They take AAA batteries, so I've also got spare batteries on me. I turned up at a gig recently and I could not see the music at all. If I hadn't have had these, I would have been really stuffed. So I was very grateful to have brought these along. In this pocket I also have plectrums, and I've got 2 spare sets of strings. For those that don't know, I like to use these Tomastic 12 gauge round wound bebop strings. And there's actually a pocket behind that one. And in here I tend to keep microphones. I've got in here 2 microphones. I've got an SM. Well, first in here is a Sennheiser E609. That's good for amp cabinets. I prefer to use a kind of mic'd sound rather than XLR out or line out. And I think I've got an SM57 in here. 2 sturdy choices for that, and easy enough to carry around. I don't need it really, to be honest, but just in case there's a XLR lead in there, and also a tub of fast fret that I like to use to clean the strings of my guitars. You've got loads of like useful pouches in here to stuff things in if you wish. I've not fully stuffed it with stuff yet, but I'm sure I'll find other things to put in here. Now, the pocket on the front of the bag is probably one of the best features. This is where it's got a well organised place to hold cables, and in here I store guitar cables and also spare cables for you know, the kettle leads to my amps. I've got 2 spares for those. Lead wise, I need to upgrade my leads. I've been using these Fender custom shop ones for years, but I've had quite a few fail on me, and I don't think they're that great. So if you've got any recommendations for leads, then durable leads, then leave them below. But the way you can organise, you can call them up, you know, and pop them in there is just super useful and a good way to manage your cables. And that's the main compartment. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 big pockets there. And then you've got pockets to the side. In this particular one, I keep several of these bulldog clips, which are great for music on a you know, you've got a pad of music on a music stand, and this holds it in place if it gets windy. If you're outside in this country, that happens a lot. Got business cards in here when someone says, "Oh, do you do private events?" And you begrudgingly say yes, and you give them a business card. And then on the other side, there's also a pouch in here. I keep batteries for the lights, and then in this little pouch, things that you probably don't want to need at a gig, but sometimes you might. Paracetamol, ibuprofen, some stomach medicine, another pair of contact lenses in case the other pair fails, and some deodorant. So just important stuff. The amount of times on a gig someone says, "Oh, I've got a banging headache," say, "I haven't got any paracetamol, any ibuprofen," I will. More batteries as well. So that's the side pockets, and you've got these clips on the side, 2 on this side, 1 on that side, which you could hold, I believe, a mic stand. Say I use it for my guitar stand, my music stand, and yeah, my music stand already always sits in the boot of my car. It's just always there in case I need it. And then on the back, you've also got this pouch on the back, which is, you could put a laptop in this pouch at the back. There's several ways to store stuff in here if you wish. What have I got? I've got a pad of manuscript, music I might need for gigs, and I keep a pen and a pencil in there as well, so you know, good for rehearsals, also good just to have it there. That's every compartment. So as you can see, that's pretty good for the, you know, for the size of the bag to hold all of that stuff. And for me, when it comes to going to gigs, I like to be organised. That bag, I never take anything out of it apart from at a gig. So I always, in terms of leads, my effects, my pedals, they just stay in there between gig to gig. So everything that's in there is only used at a gig. That way, I don't go to the bag and think, "Oh, I took that out, I need to put that back in there." It's just always ready to go. That gives me peace of mind. And I love the simplicity of having 3 things I need to grab when I need to go to the car. And that is my guitar, maybe guitars sometimes, an amp, and that bag. And that is just so simple. I need it that simple. 3 things, boom, boom, boom. Have I got those 3 things? Yes, I can drive off. Because sometimes before I used to have to grab lots of different things, get them all in there. I'd be like, "Oh, I left that behind." And you know, you get half a mile down the road and you're like, "Oh, I think I've forgotten this." And then you have to pull over and check, and of course you've actually taken it. But this way, fingers crossed, I shouldn't forget anything at a gig. And very pleasingly for me, my Tone King amp and that bag fits perfectly in the boot of my car. Now, just going through it there, I can think of a couple things I probably should add to it. Something simple, having some gaffer tape in there, always useful. And there's that feeling of what would happen if my tube amp failed? What would I do if I took my quilter, it failed? Well, one thing I was thinking I could get is, I haven't rushed to do it because it's 200-300 quid, is a quilter super block US, which worst comes to the worst, say if my tube amp failed, tubes failed, providing the speaker hadn't broken as well, I could use that to plug into as like the amp. That would work. Although that said, my pedal board, the El Pescador, is a preamp, so worst comes to the worst, I could just go through into the PA, into the front of house with that. So I do have a solution if my amp did fail on me, which is my biggest fear. Now, in terms of whether this is worth the money, I think it's very expensive for what it is, I'll be completely honest. There might be alternatives out there. You could turn obviously any rucksack into this kind of bag. I think the cable management at the bottom kind of wins this for a lot of people, and it does for me. It's simple, easy to grab stuff, easy to use. The amount I can fit in here, I'm amazed the size of this bag, the amount I've managed to fit in here, and I haven't filled every nook and cranny. There's still more I could get in here. So in that respect, it's done exactly what I wanted it to do, and I would much rather have one bag like this that does it all than to have to carry 2 or 3 things, because as a musician, one of the most important things is getting on the road as quickly as possible after a gig. And if I've just got those 3 things to grab, life is a lot easier. So if you're a fellow musician out there gigging, hopefully that gives you a sense of what this bag is like and whether it's worth dropping the money on it. If you've got any questions about just performing in general, or if you've got any suggestions for the bag, things you think I should be taking, or whether it's overkill, then you leave them below. Don't forget, jazz guitar lessons videos like this every Wednesday with myself, Andy. Please check the description for a link to my Patreon page as well as my website. Until next time, you take care.